Good morning to those of you, and good afternoon to those of you joining us in different time zones. It's great to be back. I was obviously missing last week or 2 weeks ago. The familiar faces are there. Both of us back again. Myself looking after the African territory, and Armaan looking after the DACH and Netherlands. And obviously just a reminder again of exactly what we are here to do, and it's to take you through just a summary of where we believe we are perhaps needing to share some extra information and things that I guess that Armaan and I get asked on a more regular basis. And so yeah, it's obviously great to be able to share that with you. Before I kick off on my topic, just a quick, I guess, more request to those of you that have joined. We are going to be having another Mastering 42 Gears a webinar hosted by our CTO, Prakash. It's in early September, and we've obviously shared, and Prakash has a list of topics that he would like to cover. But as our partners, we would love to be able to give you an opportunity to add to that and to make some suggestions or to submit some requests. So please feel free to add it in the meeting chat. Gabby will grab those from there if need be, or reach out to one of us via email. Our emails are normally at the end of this presentation. So we'd really enjoy some of your input and some of your feedback to be able to include that in what's going to be shared. The second is that our Q2 partner newsletter went out on the 28th of June, so a couple of days ago. It would have come from an email address, partnership@42gears.com, and if you didn't get it, or it's not in your spam or junk folder, please let us know. It's a really helpful newsletter that we send out quarterly. Lots of extra information, lots of tools and presentations and brochures, anything that's been updated that our partner marketing team would like to be able to share with you is included. So again, please, if you didn't get it on the 28th of June, let us know so that Gabby can add you into the mailing list for that newsletter. And then today's topics. I guess for some of you, the one that I've chosen is perhaps going to be a recap. But in the last couple of days, I've had numerous calls from partners asking specifically about how they can create or configure different user profiles. And so it was one that I thought would be good to recap on. And then Armaan's going to touch on some more of the compliance functionality in his slot after I've done. So let me jump into my console. I think before I kick off, just a reminder for you, please, that, and I'm using just one of our new, if you haven't already seen, the OS specific feature lists that you can grab off our website or partner portal. But a reminder that the number of what we would term administrators or admin users is defined by your tier of licensing selected. And so you will see in our standard edition, we have 3 unique admin users. In our premium, we have 25, and in our enterprise licensing, we have unlimited. And so, those would give you an idea as to what would be available as a base function. We can also add those. So please, at any time, if you needed to be able to increase a particular license tier to a different number of licenses, have a chat to your account manager. It is possible. And obviously we would be able to provide a quote and allow you to be able to do that. Perhaps while I'm here, also important to mention that those users, and even the standard users that would have originally been sort of available, can be used in a number of concurrent sessions. So as an example, Armaan and myself could both be logged into the same console at the same time using the same user, and obviously only consuming one of those users that are predefined. So this would, I guess, be for those of our partners or those of our customers who need very specific, probably system logging and user logging to be able to see who was responsible for some interesting changes in the SureMDM console. So let me jump quickly into the user management section. You will find obviously under settings, we have our user management option, and then there are a couple of different topics that I want to cover as part of this. And in fact, I'm going to bounce around a little bit because I think it's important. The first obviously would be under the users tab, and this would be where you would ultimately create or edit or delete any of those users that you're intending to add to your console. The reason I'm saying I'm going to jump around is you'll see when you do that, you have to define the roles, the device group set, and the folders, and potentially even the grid column set that you've defined. So these 4 values at the bottom are obviously what you're going to need to define as part of your user that you create. And so for the moment, I'm going to move to those and obviously come back. And once we've done that, we would then be able to configure exactly what we needed in terms of the roles or the responsibilities that this user would have in the SureMDM console. So let's start with the roles. I have created a bits and bolts user in the meantime, or at least a user for specifically controlling the role that this person would have. But again, you can create as many of these as you would like, named obviously in the way that you would prefer, and the ability also to clone those. So potentially a specific environment that you've created for a user that you need to be able to adjust just one value of, and the possibility to be able to clone and edit is available. And then I'm going to expand all of these sections, but really, you know, I guess the easiest to describe this as absolutely every single possible function that you could think of doing within the SureMDM console can be either enabled or disabled. And that goes down to things like the dashboards, which of the widgets within the dashboards can be controlled, and even things around your account management or your account settings. So perhaps you have some of your users that you don't wish to be able to view the available licenses, or to be able to make changes to any of those let's call them console global settings that you would see. I'm sure you can see I'm still busy scrolling through all of these. Armaan, do you have any idea how many there are? I'm going to guess and say between 100 and 200 based on the length of time that I'm scrolling through this list.
That's fair enough.
Yeah. So as I'm sure you can see, you know, absolutely everything related to jobs, profiles, essentially every single possible function that you would be able to do within the SureMDM console can be either enabled or controlled, or restricted, sorry. And as you'll see here is the last section that I mentioned when I was chatting just now about the account information. So even, you know, what would be possible, as I said, within the console configuration itself can be enabled or disabled for specific users. So that we would define as the role. This is really what the person or the user is going to be able to do physically within the environment of what you've allowed. The second would be the device group set. And in my environment, obviously, I've separated some of the geographical locations on the African continent. But in this environment, what I would be able to do, or in this filter, what I would be able to do is give a specific user access to which of these parent or child groups they are responsible for. And so that allows again, using sort of the geographical use of the console, a particular user in a specific country to only see those devices that are available within their environment. You can also completely hide the parent groups. I'll show you that within the user setup. There is a checkbox right at the bottom that offers for you to be able to hide anything that doesn't have child groups selected within its environment. The third of those 4 options that I spoke about is the ability to give access to specific folders of jobs or profiles. And so I had created within my jobs folder a little bit earlier a bits and bolts jobs environment. I could obviously move or create jobs within that. And if I jump back, you will see that I could potentially give users access to only a certain set of jobs that I have agreed that they could see. So there we go, my bits and bolts jobs folder. I have the ability also to customize the profiles folder, and then also custom reports. So again, access to specific jobs, profiles, or reports that you would like that particular user to be able to get access to. And then the last of the 4 that we spoke about was the device grid. And this really would be your home screen. This would be the option to be able to define, let me quickly jump back to my home screen. This would be the option to define by user the columns or view that they are able to see within this device grid on the home screen of our environment. So again, maybe a user who doesn't need specific information, or you want to hide specific information from that user, you have the ability to completely control what he or she would see when they log into this console. So using a combination of those 4 variables. Again, jumping back to the creation of the user, once I've captured or created a username, password, and some extra details, you will see I now have the possibility to define, using the drop-down list, which of the roles, which of the groups that I had previously set up, which of the folders were available, and although I haven't done it, if I had defined a device grid column set for that specific user, I would have the option to be able to give them that access at the same time. This is the option that I mentioned a little bit earlier. If you want to completely hide the parent group, if a child group hasn't been selected, then please make sure to be able to check this function on the console. One last thing before I hand over is also just a reminder that for resetting of passwords, that would be done by the admin user. So what we would call the account admin, the person whose details were first created and linked to the licensing of the console. That person would be able to go and push down the command to be able to reset a password if one of the sub-users or created users within their environment are needing that done. I hope that's clear. I know, again, for some of you, perhaps a recap, but it definitely is something that's, as I said, come up very regularly in the last couple of days, and I think it offers a significant advantage for you in the setups, obviously, of the way that some of your customers may need to use their environments.
Stuart, I'd even add to it. The if you go to the device, sorry, go to roles.
Yes.
And then if you just edit one that you might have, maybe the bits and bolts.
Perfect.
So instead of making a new one, edit that first one for me. What, or sorry, you can even close it. What I wanted to show more than that was the exports.
Yeah.
So what's really interesting is, especially with SureMDM Hub and with the ability to use let me call it like a generic email address, you would then be creating users that maybe the end customer or end client would be using to log into the MDM. You wouldn't have to go through all these 200 clicks. You can just do it once, export this, save it, and then import it into the other consoles. It's just to give you a little bit of let's call it ease of use or time saving when creating multiple smaller accounts.
For sure. And I think that's our goal, isn't it? I mean, we want to make this as user friendly for our partners and customers at the end of the day. So anything that we can do to help and to do exactly that, please let us know.
Wonderful.
Good. Well, let me change across to you, Armaan, and I know you've got your next topic to cover.
Exactly. So give me one moment, everyone, while I share my screen. Hopefully you all can see that now. What my goal was to talk about, I'll make this slightly bigger really quick just for the second that we're here, is general security compliance, or security within compliance. So recently the request has been coming up from me more and more on how can I achieve a certain automated action without requiring, let's say I get a notification and I have to come in and perform an activity. And a lot of these activities are A, needing to be done very quickly, and B, are not looking, or the users are not looking to do them manually. So, okay, Armaan, you give me a red icon or a notification, and then I have to go perform the activity. Sometimes that might take too long, or maybe I'm on leave, or whatever's going on. It might cause either a security compliance regulational issue, or on the other side of it, might lead to a potential, let's say, it drops my attention and something never gets done. Most of the time, the solution that myself, Stuart, and the rest of the team provides sits inside a compliance job. So I wanted to go over some of the more, I would call them skimmed over compliance policies that might be interesting when you or someone is coming to you talking about, okay, how can I ensure a device is secure? So with that in mind, I'm going to jump on over to my SureMDM environment. I'll make it a little bit bigger just so hopefully it's legible. And I'm going to jump right into jobs at the very top of the screen here. What's important with compliance jobs is just to quickly show you, I mean, you can go into any operating system and you will find compliance jobs there, But if I come over to the one that I've already made and modify it, you'll notice that within each of the different subcategories, there are further restrictions and limitations on what operating system is compatible with this job or function. The reason for this being, you can keep one compliant job and use that across all of the different operating systems, even IoT devices within your organization. So let's say in this example where we have Android, Windows, and iOS, maybe I apply this same composite job to a MacBook. No problem. Only the different features and functions which are applicable to a MacBook will be applied to it. So this just means that, as Stuart mentioned earlier, although there is a lot to configure in here, the application of it is as simplified as possible. You do not need to have multiple compliance configurations or setups done for different types of devices. All can be done within one job most of the time. Now, what's important is if you want to remove it, let's say, for instance, I have done a compliance job like this, and for whatever reason, a device does not need this applied. It's very simple to do it. However, the request in question comes up. You just have to uncheck this enable compliance job and apply it to a device. Doing this will remove all compliance restrictions, and that device is no longer under compliance. So if you're doing some testing, I heavily recommend applying this to your test device afterwards, just to make sure there's no unexpected activities taking place into it. Now, of course, you have to always name it. And I just wanted to highlight a handful of the different things which we would consider or recommend you considering in a compliance or secure device. You'll notice here that I have all these little green checkboxes. That means that they have been configured. If I come over to something, hit configure, and then try to click away, you're going to notice that I get this little red icon with the exclamation point. Red is bad, green is good. So we want to add something here just to make sure that if, for instance, if a Play for Work account should not be changed or removed, if it is removed, well, then I want to perform a particular activity. And these activities are at sometimes wonderful and great, but during other scenarios, maybe a little bit confusing. So I wanted to go over some of these examples. Now, I changed my mind. I want to click somewhere else. I can't. You're going to notice I keep getting these error messages. All this means is I have to come back to the Play for Work tab, which is still open, and click on Remove. So then everything else is green. It removes that red icon. I can keep working. Now, as far as, again, the concept of everything under one job, what this means is that in different categories, we have specifically broken down Android, iOS, Mac, you name it, all the different operating system, or many of the different operating system versions. Of course, with Linux, you can have many, many more, are encompassed here. And right now, as you can see, I've made one very specific to Android, where I've mentioned that all of my devices should be within Android 12 and 14. All of the other operating systems, I've just left as any. So in this scenario, I don't care what operating system my iOS device is on, only the Android is important to me. And in the case of Android, I've done a few things. For starters, I've mentioned that the first thing that I actually want is a notification sent to me if a device is out of compliance. What this means is after 10 minutes, because I've set a delay here of 10 minutes, an email will be sent to me mentioning specifically the device which is out of compliance and the kind of timestamp and general information of this device. So I can then come back into the MDM system and perform whatever activity needs to be done on it. However, if I am away and I'm unable to perform whatever task is required of me, I have also set two further delays. Delay number one is that after 2 days of this device being out of compliance, the device will be moved to the block list. Block list means the device is still under management. It's still in the MDM, but it will not be applied, or new activities or intents will not be applied to it. So if there is a new patch, if there is a new file or application that gets installed, none of these activities will take place. And it is kind of a flagged as a block-listed device. Now, this gives me additional time. By the way, maybe again, I'm on leave and I want nobody else to make any changes or do anything to this device. That's why I specifically flag it as blocklisted. And then if I still take no action after 7 days, I will wipe this device and I will want to start from brand new, treat it as a fresh device. This is one example. Now, again, this might not be applicable to you, or you might not see how this fits or might be important or valuable to you. That is why everything here is specifically made in a flexible manner. Is 7 days too long? Make it less. Make it 5 days. Does it need to be immediately? Do I need to apply a job right away? No problem. Do I need to apply more than one job? Easy. So the flexibility concept here is quite large. I'll give you some more examples. So this one here is already configured. I'm just going to click on this little trash can. I want to delete that action. I'm going to keep the same, everything else here the same. Security patch, jailbroken, rooted, they're the same. I mean, I have kind of similar applications, configurations. Here, though, you see that I need the email sent right away, because this is a much more urgent case if a device has been rooted or jailbroken. We're only talking about Android and iOS here. And after 30 minutes, this device should be wiped because we're afraid of what a malicious person could possibly do with this device. But one thing which is quite interesting for me, and I'm seeing the use case come up more and more, is the Activate Kiosk application. So in the case of devices which should be in a kiosk mode, coming here and setting up this policy is quite powerful and helpful. Now, for starters, we default with Sherlock, which is naturally our kiosk mode, but you can also default to SureFox, SureVideo if you're using it for video and kind of digital signage, but you can also select custom and add a specific package name. So if you're using a third party or a OEM kiosk mode, that's still supported, and we can still perform all these activities with that other application. For now, I'm just going to go into Sherlock because this function here is also very interesting. We have a exception that we can add to this rule. And the exception here is that enabled authenticated kiosk exits are compliant. What this means is that if I take the device and I tap on the screen and I type in the password and I've exited Sherlock this way, that's okay. That is not a breach of this device's compliance. However, after 2 hours, I should be relaunched back into kiosk mode. So let's say, for instance, I'm working on a device, I get a phone call, something happens, my attention gets diverted. This device will go back into kiosk mode. So if somebody came and picked it up and tried to do something with it in the meantime, there would not be a big change to that, or there would not be as much risk applied to that device. But what's also very interesting is I want to do some things when a device exits Sherlock in an unauthorized way. And the first thing that should happen right away is that I apply a new run script, or a run script to this device, which is launch Sherlock. Right away. Somehow, some way, that device exited Sherlock, Sherlock crashed, whatever happened, script instantly force it back up. Now, I took it one step further because I was kind of worried that maybe Sherlock crashed and there's something going wrong with the Android operating system. So I want to do two things. I want to A, launch Sherlock again, and B, reboot it. Now, I've added them here as two different individual activities. Probably the best practice would have been to make a composite job and to add these, so like one after the other in a composite job, but I wanted to add the composite job here. But I just wanted to give you an example of what is possible in this scenario. So you can have more than one action. And on top of that, I want an email sent to me immediately, notifying me that this device has had this activity or this intent taken place, or somehow it's got out of kiosk mode and I want to figure out why. So again, all things that you can customize and dive into on a much deeper, more kind of fundamental level. And these are just some examples. Now, there's of course many other things. Mobile threat detection is something that we are talking about more and more, and we are seeing there are similar policies that you can apply to mobile threat detection. Kind of again, email notifications. Do you want activities or actions to happen? There's a lot you can do here. So sending a message to the device, probably not that important, but moving a device to blacklist, wiping the device, depending on what's on the device, how important that information is, these are all things that you may or may not, actions you may or may not want to take. A fun one for me is application policies. Now, this applies more to devices which are not in a kiosk mode. Maybe they're a dedicated device, but they're kind of free. In this scenario, there might be some applications that you want to block, or that there's certain applications that you want to allow and only allow. Now, in this scenario, I'm considering a use case where there is a whole world of possibilities that this user can go access and have access to whatever apps they want, but I've specifically wanted to block 2 apps. I don't know if anyone's familiar with this one here, but this is TikTok's package name, and this one here is Facebook. So all that we've done here is said that I don't care what you do, you just can't use TikTok and you can't use Facebook. Fine. But what has not been done yet is I have not yet added a action. So if these devices are installed onto a device, what should happen? Now, very simply put, I would, in my opinion, if I know these devices, these applications should not be installed, but they could be, I would come here and I would say, out of compliance, okay, apply a job immediately. And the job that I should apply would be this uninstall APK job. And in this, I think it's a job, so it's just the uninstall job, or it's a run script, but I can then specify these 2 package names and say uninstall them and remove them from this device. Now, of course, there's other ways to handle this. You could have blocked them in your profiles, but this is just an additional step that you can take. And probably what's even more powerful is the allow list, where you're specifically restricting these applications, but just as an example. Now, I know this is probably one of the longer sessions that we've had on a topic, but there was a lot here that we can talk about and a lot here that we can kind of dive into. Almost every category here has something that can be, or that we can spend quite some time talking about. For instance, we had talked about battery compliance way back when in one of the first episodes. But just to drop one little thing in here, and then I won't go deep into it, but just to get you all thinking about the concept, is things compliance. Up until now, you have not really seen this little things icon, IoT smart devices. And there's only one section here that really has it, that's things compliance. But what's very interesting here is depending on the device that you have, so right now I only have 2 IoT devices in my console. This is a router, and this is just a regular home printer. But of course, if you have a industrial printer, that pops up here too, and you got way more things you can play around with. But you can do things like, sorry, gotta name it first, come over here and then select, so I don't have, sorry, this printer doesn't have anything, but if there was a unique property, let me check my router quickly. Maybe, yeah, so similar, but if it had a unique property, like let's say number of prints or toner levels, or let's say things like blade cutter or status open close on the lid, these are things that we could have named as properties and then also named the condition. So in this state or that state, what should it be? And in the case, sorry, it looks like it's going a bit slow there, but in the state that there's a specific value, that let's say it should always be status on lid closed, we could have also put on closed specifically as a value here. Reason for it being, there's a lot of IoT devices, we have a lot of different plugins, and many of these factors or values can be unique. But similarly, you can put in a duration, value of time, and then also here specify what activity or action should take place. So here you only have the option to send message, email notifications, and send SMS. So you only be able to be notified when something happens, but it works on the same basis as device which is out of compliance, notify you. Here, unfortunately, for the meantime, you will have to take the action yourself. Again, because mainly these devices are kind of more read information than write. However, there is a request in here to get the action for devices which support it, like industrial printers is a good example, for you to take action and initiative directly onto these devices, change a configuration, change a setting, whatever it may be. And then once you have something configured, you can add more than one. So as you might have seen here, when I had to pick a model, you can set a specific rule for compliance, one for Archer MR200 and another one for my brother DCP. So however many you have, however many you need, just add them as additional lines. And once this is all done, hit save. Sorry, I'll have to remove this because nothing's done. Hit save, and then you can apply it to all the devices or just one device in your MDM system. So very straightforward, easy to use in concept, but because it is such a broad, big world of possibilities that you can take advantage of, it does make it a little bit tricky, and hopefully makes it fun for you because you can on your own try to come up with, let's say, unconventional solutions. But anytime you have a question, you have a thought, maybe we can handle this or like that, reach out to us because we'd be very happy to help you do it and to help you kind of get to the answer or the solution in a automated way versus a way that might be manual for you or might require you to kind of integrate APIs. And if that's one account, maybe that's fine. But if you're managing multiple different accounts or clients which have the same requirements in multiple situations, having a job is much easier than all these API integrations. With that, let me just check. It doesn't look like we have any questions, but if you have any, please throw them in. I will go back to the bits and bolts in the meantime and just remind everybody that if you have missed any previous bits and bolts episodes, or there's something that you want to send, or maybe your colleague could not join this meeting, but they would find the information valuable, this will be uploaded into the bits and bolts kind of playlist on YouTube, and then you can share this. It's public, it's open to everyone, to anybody who might be or may not be interested. And just as a reminder, because unfortunately we are not able to put a calendar event into your calendars and kind of force you all to come visit us every day or every 2 weeks when we do this, just as a friendly reminder, the next episodes are here. Next one will be July 16th and July 30th. I think Stuart and me will both be present for both of those, but please add these to your calendars. You will be notified 1 day before and 1 hour before they start. And I don't see any questions, but we'll give you all a second or two to throw any in there. If you do have any, of course, you're always able to reach us at marketing at 42gears.com, especially if you'd like access to the newsletter Stuart talked about before and don't have it. If there's a feature or function that you talked about today that maybe isn't working how you expected and you just like to talk to our tech support, you can always contact them at techsupport@42gears.com. And if you just like talking to Stuart and me or whatever, our emails are also down
Feel like
here.
a chat.
Exactly. You want to talk about how I had a bear outside my cabin once in Yosemite? You can send me a calendar invite and we'll chat about it. But good. With that, then I'll wish everybody a great rest of your day.
Super.
Hopefully you enjoyed this episode and your coffee or tea, whatever beverage you had with you. And we look forward to speaking to you and talking to you next time. And I appreciate the question, which was just a thanks. So it's our pleasure, and we look forward to having you on the next episode in 2 weeks' time. Bye now.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everybody.